about one God, many gods? What are we talking about? What's that mean? Yeah. Do we all believe in the same God? Does everybody in the world believe in the same God?
No, I think we do.
Okay.
They
All
don't.
right. Okay.
Different name.
Different names. Okay. So that's one of the questions we're going to try to ask in Lent is, do we all worship the same God, or are we worshiping different gods? What we're going to do is we're really going to have a brief overview this Lent. This is not a comprehensive, in-depth study of world religions, because quite frankly, we could take the season of Lent and study one religion and still not be able to get it all. So what I want to do is I want to try to touch on 11 different world religions and Christianity through the 5 weeks that we have, so you can see how fast this is going to have to go. But there's some things that we want to do. We want to touch on the history of those religions a little bit. We want to touch on the central teaching of each of those religions, and then on some other major teachings with those religions. And we want to compare them a little bit to Christianity and see where they're similar and where they're different. Whether we like it or agree with it or embrace it or reject it or not, we live in a multicultural world as never before. It's not nearly as cool to be blonde-headed, blue-eyed Norwegian as it once was, in this country, and especially in this part of the country. We don't see it as much in central Montana, but it's a world that's connected us through, especially through technology, to the point where we have no choice to live in this multicultural world. And we live in a world, and this will really get your blood boiling on edge, some of you. We live in a world where tolerance is expected. And I would even go as far as to say we live in a world where tolerance is demanded. You have to be tolerant of me, right? Or, by gosh, I'll sue you, or I'll get sent to Supreme Court on you, or tolerance to the point where it's just extreme, You can't pray in schools, and yet schools have to build prayer rooms for Muslims now. It's just, tolerance and acceptance is just absolutely demanded from our society. It's a politically correct thing. It's just the way that we've gone, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's the reality we live in. So with that said, the people of our world have many different gods, and they worship them in many different ways. Their expression and the name of their god and whatever are all done in a variety of different ways, that we would never think would be tolerable for us. And yet, in the first century, people thought Christianity was a horrible religion because they ate bodies and drank blood. And you can see how somebody who didn't have an understanding of Christianity would think that was extremely barbaric. How could you, be doing that? And yet, for us, it's the body and blood of Christ. It's a completely natural thing. People of varying religious beliefs live among us. Probably, again, not so much maybe in Harleton as in bigger cities, but we are affected by people of other faith every day. The headlines are full of especially the conflicts that Christianity has with Islam, and the conflicts that Judaism has with Islam. And even to some degree, if you really look at the fine print, the conflicts that Islam has with people of Shinto and Buddhist and Hindu beliefs, because this idea of spreading into China and India has really got them worried as well. There are central religious teachings of each of those faiths. We're going to try to ferret those out a little bit, so we know basically where those people are coming from. So why study other religions? Well, to better understand where people are coming from, just to understand people better, to affirm our own beliefs perhaps, maybe even to defend them. And I think it's especially important for the kids to know this. Our confirmation students are with us. It's important for them to know this. They're going to be going off to college or going in the military or leaving home and going to a big city, whatever it is they're going to do. And they're going to run into more of people of different faiths and into this multicultural world that we don't see so much up here. And they didn't even know what they believe and how to speak about what they believe. I know from my own experience, I learned really early on in the Middle East that you do not get into a religious argument with a cab driver in Kuwait. You just don't, because they're devout Muslims, and they know way more about Christianity than we know about Islam. They're very well versed. They're very good arguments. You'll never win an argument with a cab driver in the Middle East. So I don't even try after that. So another reason that we want to study and learn about these people is so we can serve them, so that we can love them. I mean, we're talking about the greatest commandment of all, right? Jesus said, love God and love your neighbor. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. We are called in the great commandment to love these people. We have to figure out how to do that, and we have to understand who they are in order to be able to love them. Otherwise, we could offend them, and then we're all back into that politically correct kind of a tolerant thing that gets us in trouble every time. We see it on the news all the time. Wow, there go those Christians again, you know. There go those Christians making trouble. It's usually the religious right, and I just cringe when I hear that on TV. I don't want Jerry Falwell or those kinds of people speaking for me. I don't want to be lumped in with those extremists of any kind, you know, whether they're the religious right or the left or whatever. I don't want to be painted with that brush. Another reason to study these religions is so that we can identify some false religious teachings. It's really easy for people to be vulnerable when they're seeking God, to believe things that aren't true. We saw, how many of you remember Jim Jones? Remember that horrible tragedy that started a church in San Francisco, got a bunch of followers. They moved down to Guyana, I think, and drank some poison Kool-Aid and just killed a bunch of people. And it was, you know, we can get sucked into those kinds of things if we're not careful. And then finally, to share our faith, because again, we're talking about Great Commission now. The Great Commission tells us to go out and share our faith, and we need to know how to do that. Well, we want to learn how to share our faith, but to do that, we need to know what other people believe as well. It helps us understand our own faith better. So let's begin by identifying either some prominent, well, let's start with prominent religions in our community. Religions now. What do we got?
Lutheran.
Okay, wait a minute, what are we talking about? We're not talking about denominations, we're talking about religions.
Okay, Christian.
Okay. Are Mormons Christians?
No.
No, they're not. And we'll see why. Mormonism is going to come, like, I think, second to the last. And we'll understand why the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, is not Christian. That'll be interesting to see. So we got Mormons. What else we got?
Christians.
We got Christians.
Judaism.
Do we have some Jewish people in town?
Well, sort of.
Sort of.
I mean, I know some people that practice kind of
Okay,
Judaism with
I'll tell you what,
Christianity.
let's broaden this, because I think that what this points to here is that we don't have a diverse community when it comes to religion. I mean, we can come over here and say, okay, we got Catholic, we got Lutheran, and so on and so forth. But those all fall into here, don't they? And we're going to see that because they have the same basic doctrinal beliefs. All right. Okay.
Seventh-day Advent.
Yep. Native American. Seventh-day Adventist.
Jehovah's Witness.
What's that?
Jehovah's Witness.
study that tonight a bit too. Okay, so if we open this category up now and we say, for instance, in the media, the things, what are some of the religions that you hear of in the news? Islam. Hindu. Shinto. Anybody know where Shinto comes from? Japan, right. Hindu is India, right. Islam's pretty much Middle East. Anything else that you've heard of in the news and the media at all that?
Buddhism.
Huh?
Buddhism.
Buddhism.
Atheists must believe in something.
That's really good. Atheist. Is that a
I was gonna say
faith?
that, but I didn't think that was a faith.
It takes more faith to be an atheist than it does to be any of the rest of us.
I don't know.
For sure it does. To believe in nothing? To me, I would take a ton. I don't have that much faith. I gotta believe in something.
Well, they probably do.
Right. How about this?
Satanists?
For a while we did have
Anybody ever heard of Satanism?
No.
Worshiping the devil, worshiping evil, right? How about Scientology? Anybody know, is anybody unfamiliar with Scientology? Christian Science? Christian Science, yeah. Scientology is kind of the religion of mental health. You know, the power of positive thinking. Yeah, she was a Christian Scientist.
Church of Triumphant or whatever. What is
that.
that?
Universal
Universal
Church.
Church of Triumphant.
Okay, the cut.
Yeah.
Church Universal and Triumphant exists down south of Livingston, right? Do you remember that? Anybody know somebody that belongs to that church? Me too.
Yeah.
Too. This person also attends the Lutheran Church, which I find fascinating.
I know of one person that's a Moonie,
Okay,
a moon, sun,
what
whatever.
was his
I don't
sun,
know.
something moon?
Sun,
right?
moon,
Yeah.
sun, or, I don't remember.
Or something like that. He was a Korean fella, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Somebody told me last year they were pagan.
Pagan?
Yeah, what's pagan?
I wasn't sure, I didn't know how to ask.
I wonder if that, like Wiccan or something, or
I didn't ask,
nature.
because they told me that they were pagan, and I said, oh, well, okay. What else can I say?
They may have not even known what that meant.
I didn't.
Pagan actually is a term that means non-Christian, actually.
My niece said she's a pagan.
Okay.
She believes in paganism. And when I asked what that was, she says they worship the trees and the stars.
Right, it's a natural,
And
it's a
so I
Wiccan
says, well,
kind
you're
of
not, you're worshiping
Druid,
creation, not creator.
right,
Druid.
Druid, yeah. That would be a pagan style of religion. You know, Gary, I think they